This is not a motivational story. This is a case file. Daniel is 44 years old. He earns $72,000 a year. That is more than 68% of American households. And he has $4,200 in savings. Stop for a moment. Not $4,200 invested. Not $4,200 in a brokerage account. $4,200 in a Chase checking account that he has not touched, because touching it would mean there is nothing left. He is not irresponsible, he is not careless, he pays his bills, he shows up. He is, by most definitions, doing fine. But the system he is running is not building anything. It is maintaining the appearance of a life while quietly consuming the infrastructure of a future. That is the trap. In this video, I am going to walk you through Daniel's financial operating system, exactly as I found it. I am going to show you the one rule that restructured his compounding trajectory, and I am going to show you what that rule looks like over time. Not in theory, but in execution. This is not a story about luck, discipline, or motivation. It is about one number, 1 hour, and what happens when you make that number non-negotiable. Let's open the file. Daniel works as a regional operations manager for a mid-sized logistics contractor that services Amazon fulfillment centers across the Midwest. He has held that title for 6 years. He got his last raise 18 months ago, 3%. He and his wife Karen have 2 kids, 14 and 11. They live in a 4-bedroom home they bought in 2018 before rates moved. The mortgage is $1,840 a month. It felt manageable at the time. They have 2 car payments totaling $940 a month. Both were purchased with the logic that reliability matters when you have kids. That logic is not wrong. The execution is expensive. Daniel's take-home after taxes is $4,680 per month. On paper, this is a reasonable income. In practice, it is a number that disappears every single month with a precision that would impress an engineer. Mortgage, insurance, groceries, subscriptions, kids' activities, the occasional dinner out because they deserve it. By the 20th of every month, the checking account has entered its quiet season. Not broke, not in crisis, just thin. Daniel has told himself this is temporary. He has been telling himself that for 4 years. The account disagrees. That is the trap. Here is what I found when I ran his financial profile. Daniel has had 4 salary increases in the last 7 years. Combined, those raises added $14,800 to his annual income. He saved none of it, not because he spent it foolishly, because he spent it invisibly. The first raise went to a better car. That felt rational. The old one had 140,000 miles on it. The second raise funded a kitchen renovation. That felt like an investment. The third raise absorbed 2 streaming services, a gym membership they use twice a week, and a quiet increase in the grocery budget because the good chicken matters when you have teenagers. The fourth raise? He genuinely cannot tell you where it went. It dissolved into the cost of being the version of himself he had gradually agreed to become. This is not failure. This is the default setting. Lifestyle inflation is not a moral problem. It is a mechanical one. Every time Daniel earned more, the system recalibrated what normal meant. The floor moved up. The ceiling never moved. He was contributing just enough to his Fidelity 401k to capture the employer match, 3%, and calling that investing. Warren Buffett said it plainly. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. Daniel had the order reversed. That was the whole problem. Here is the rule. Take 1 hour of your gross pay every working day. Move it somewhere your hands cannot reach. That is it. If you earn $72,000 a year, you work roughly 2,000 hours to get it. That means 1 hour of your pay equals $36. $36 a day, 5 days a week, equals $180 a week. $180 a week equals $9,360 a year. Daniel looked at that number and said it was not enough to matter. That is the most expensive sentence a late starter can say. Because $9,360 a year is not the number that matters. The number that matters is what $9,360 becomes when you stop touching it. Over 10 years, at a conservative 7% annual return, consistent with the long-run historical average of the S&P 500, that $9,360 per year becomes $129,000. Not from a salary increase, not from a side hustle, not from a market prediction, from 1 hour. Seneca wrote it 2,000 years ago. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The poverty Daniel was living was not income poverty. It was attention poverty. He had never decided what 1 hour of his labor was actually worth. The rule forced that decision. Drop a comment right now. One word only. What has been your single biggest barrier to saving consistently? I read every single one. Daniel ran the math. He did not start saving the next day. He started justifying why the rule did not apply to him. The mortgage is not optional. The car payments are not optional. You cannot pull your 11-year-old out of soccer because of a financial optimization exercise. He was right about all of it. And still wrong about the conclusion, because the rule does not ask you to cut what is essential. It asks you to identify what is structural. The problem was not the mortgage. The problem was that Daniel had assembled a cost structure that consumed every available dollar, including the dollars that should have been non-negotiable. The house was a choice. The dual car payments at $940 a month was a choice. The kitchen renovation financed at 6.9% through a Wells Fargo home equity line was a choice. None of those choices were individually wrong. Assembled together, they had constructed a financial architecture that left no room for compounding. That is the trap most late starters do not see. They look at their expenses and see necessities. The system sees a profile optimized for comfort and against growth. Daniel was funding a lifestyle. He had not yet started funding a future. Think about that. Daniel started on a Thursday, not Monday, not the first of the month, not after a family meeting or a new budgeting app or a perfect moment. Thursday, because that was the day he ran the math and decided the excuses had become more expensive than the rule. He opened a separate high-yield savings account at Ally Bank, not at Chase, where his checking account lived. Different institution, different login, no debit card attached. He named it one word, engine, not because it was inspiring, because it was mechanical. He set up an automatic transfer of $36, executing every weekday before 6 in the morning, before he was awake to second-guess it. The first week felt trivial. The second week, Karen noticed a recurring transfer on the Chase statement. He explained it. She did not fight it. She did not celebrate it. She said, "Okay." And that was enough. Month one closed at $648. Not life-changing money, not even a car payment. But it was a number that had not existed before. It existed because Daniel had decided it would. That distinction matters more than the amount. This is how irreversible wealth begins. Not with a windfall, not with a new income stream, with a decision that does not require a perfect moment. In month 4, the furnace failed. December, Ohio. The repair quote came in at $2,800 from a local HVAC contractor. Daniel opened his phone and looked at the Ally engine account. $2,314. He was $486 short. His Chase checking account had $340 in it. He called the contractor and asked about partial payment with the remainder in 30 days. They agreed. He transferred $2,314 from the engine account, covered the balance from his next paycheck, and the furnace was repaired. No credit card, no 24% financing through a Synchrony bank store card, no call to a family member. He rebuilt the engine account from zero and started again. Here is where most people stop. They reason that emergencies will always drain the account before it grows, that the system is futile for someone with his cost structure, that this is simply not realistic for a man with a mortgage, 2 car payments, and 2 kids in activities. Daniel did not stop. He started again on a Monday. By month 8, the engine crossed $2,000 again. By month 11, it cleared $4,000 for the first time. Month 8, $2,000. Month 11, $4,000. Account graph rebuilding from zero, slower at first, then steadily rising. The furnace had not broken the system. It had tested it. The system held. That is what quiet compounding looks like in the real world. It does not run in a straight line. It survives interruption. That is the difference between a savings habit and a financial operating system. Something changes at month 9. I have seen it across enough profiles to recognize the pattern. It is not excitement. It is not motivation. Those are early-stage emotions. They do not survive furnace repairs and car payments and the slow grind of a Tuesday. What arrives at month 9 is something quieter. Orientation. Daniel began making decisions through a different filter. Not, can I afford this? He could always answer yes to that and be overdrawn within 2 weeks. The new filter was, is this worth one more hour on the operations floor? Sometimes the answer was yes. He did not become ascetic. He did not announce a new financial philosophy at dinner. He simply began pricing things accurately. The weekend golf trip he used to book without thinking, he thought. He went, but he chose the public course over the resort. The impulse kitchen upgrade Karen had flagged, they did it. 6 months later, in cash. The gap between earning and spending began to hold. Not because Daniel became disciplined, because the system made the cost of leaking visible. You cannot fix what you cannot see. The Ally engine account had made the leak visible. He could watch the number move. He could watch the number stay. He could trace exactly which decision had cost him exactly how much forward momentum. That is all a good system needs to do. Make the invisible visible, then let the individual make the call. Let me stop here and give you a number. By month 12, Daniel's engine account held $8,640. Not invested yet, not deployed. Just sitting in his Ally Bank high-yield savings account earning 4.6% annually. But here is what that number represented in real terms. 3 months of mortgage payments, 9 months of 1 car payment, and 8 furnace repairs. The distance between a bad month and a destroyed credit score. The Federal Reserve's own data tells us that 37% of American adults cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing, without a credit card, a payday loan, or a call to someone who would rather not get that call. Daniel is not exceptional. He is not lucky. He is running a different system. I want to ask you something directly. If you mapped your last 12 months of income against your current net worth, how much of your labor is still in your possession? Not in someone else's interest payment flowing to JP Morgan Chase or Citibank, not in the depreciated value of a 3-year-old vehicle sitting in your driveway losing value every single day. In your possession, working, compounding. If the answer makes you uncomfortable, that discomfort is data. Do not bury it. Use it. Drop a comment below. What is one thing you would do differently if you started the 1-hour rule today? Stop for a moment. Here is what most financial content will not tell you about the 1-hour pay rule. It is not primarily a savings strategy. It is a compounding ignition system. The savings are the mechanism. The compound growth is the outcome. But the real transformation is structural. It is an architectural change to how money moves through your life before you ever touch it. Daniel did not become wealthy in year 1. He became unpoor. That distinction is critical for a late starter. Unpoor means the system stops running against you. Every financial crisis that used to produce debt now produces a withdrawal. Every emergency that used to compound a problem now resolves it. The engine account is not a retirement vehicle in year 1. It is a pressure valve. But here is what happens in year 3. When Daniel moves that engine balance into a Vanguard brokerage account, a standard 3-fund structure built around the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, the Vanguard Total International Stock Index Fund, and a short-duration bond allocation, the architecture changes fundamentally. He is no longer saving against emergencies. He is building a position. 1 hour per day, $36. For a man earning $72,000, that is 1.8% of gross income. He is not at 15% yet, but he is moving, and direction matters more than distance in year 1. If this is landing, subscribe now. I break down systems like this every single week. Year 2 brought a different kind of problem. Daniel was promoted. New title, $9,000 salary increase. His employer, the logistics firm under a long-term Amazon fulfillment contract, had recognized his operational efficiency metrics and moved him into a regional director role covering 3 distribution hubs across Ohio and Indiana. The old Daniel would have allocated that $9,000 within 90 days, quietly, invisibly, absorbed into the cost structure. A better car, a family vacation that felt earned, a home office renovation. New Daniel had a different decision to make. Not about the money, about identity. Because that $9,000 raise represented the exact moment most late starters reset their floor and lose the momentum of the preceding 18 months. He and Karen had what he described as the most important financial conversation of their marriage, not because it was comfortable. Karen had been patient. That patience had cost her something real. Daniel understood that. He proposed a split. Half the raise increased the automatic Ally engine transfer from 1 hour per day to 1.5 hours, and the other half funded a real family vacation, paid in full with no Citibank balance and no American Express carry. Irreversible wealth is not built alone. It is built in agreements. The system did not work because Daniel was disciplined. It worked because he built a version of it that his marriage could sustain. Let me show you what year 3 looks like. The Ally engine account ended year 1 at $9,360. It ended year 2 at $21,200, factoring in the raise increase and the high-yield savings return. At the 30-month mark, Daniel transferred $18,000 into a Vanguard brokerage account, a 3-fund portfolio built around the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund for broad domestic exposure, the Vanguard Total International Stock Index Fund for global diversification, and the Vanguard Short-Term Bond Index Fund as a stability buffer. Auto-invest scheduled on the 1st and 15th of every month. He has not checked the balance in 6 weeks. That is not neglect. That is architecture. His financial operating system now has 3 distinct layers. Layer 1 is the Ally engine account, the daily accumulation vehicle that captures 1 hour of labor before the rest of the household can spend it. Layer 2 is the Vanguard brokerage position, the compounding engine that converts accumulated capital into long-run market participation. Layer 3 is the household operating agreement with Karen, the behavioral infrastructure that keeps both running through furnace failures, salary increases, and every ordinary Tuesday in between. Daniel is 47 years old. He is not wealthy, not yet. But for the first time in his adult life, his money is moving in one direction, forward. One rule, one account, one agreement, quiet compounding. That is the whole system. Here is the brief. Most late starters are not behind because they earned too little. They are behind because every raise they ever received was absorbed by the lifestyle they believed they had earned. The 1-hour pay rule does not ask you to dismantle your life. It asks you to reserve a single hour of your labor, every working day, for a system that is running on your behalf instead of against you. 1 hour at $36 is $9,360 a year. Over 10 years at 7%, consistent with the S&P 500's long-run historical average, that becomes $129,000. Over 20 years, it becomes $406,000. These are not extraordinary numbers. They are the baseline output of an uninterrupted system. Most people will never see them, not because they could not, because they never made the first transfer non-negotiable. Daniel did. Not on a Monday, not after a perfect month. On a Thursday, at his kitchen table in Columbus, Ohio, with a phone and a decision that cost him nothing except the next excuse. You have the same phone. You have the same Thursday. The only variable left is the decision. If you are over 40 and this system landed, watch this next. It is the exact compounding framework I walk every late starter through before we touch a single investment. And one more thing. If this case file helped you see your own financial profile differently, drop the words case file in the comments right now. It tells me to bring you more diagnostic content exactly like this. Every comment gets read, every one, built with intention.